Call signs Misfit. We on mission launch. Repeat, we on mission launch.
I said get down on the ground!
And we're joined by Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Doing all right. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for. I always enjoy coming on the show. You guys keep a lively dialogue. You're always straight to the point. I appreciate that.
That's a charitable way of putting it.
No, you're professionals. You're very good at this.
Well, no, I don't know about that, but we try to we try. It's great to have you back.
Thanks.
Hot off the heels of
Sans Kudo.
Kudo's. He's got web browsers to handle.
He's important now.
Yeah. I wish Kudo was here so we could just try to can we get a Def Jam Icon sequel made? Can we make that happen?
There you go.
What are we doing?
Now Fight Night. That would be a nice.
Army Men Air Attack. We back to get back to what matters here. Yeah. So, I was going to say big show for you, but obviously every year you've got big announcements to bring. But this year felt a little different. Kind of just going back to some of the stuff from the spring showcase when you started talking a little bit about making some moves around the Xbox kind of brand or platform of services and all that sort of stuff. It feels like this was the press conference where you really kind of say like, okay, now we're going to lay out the roadmap for how this stuff's going to start to happen. Yeah,
it's been a long kind of journey. I actually started like in January of 15 when we started talking about DirectX on both console, DirectX 12 on console and Win 10, then bringing Xbox Live to both console and Win 10, talking about crossplay like with the IDARB guys and other people.
Right.
Charla bringing the ID at Xbox program to both Windows and Xbox and starting to ship more of our first-party games on both Windows and console Xbox. This was a nice moment for us at the briefing. This leadership team, since we've been in place, this is the first time we've introduced hardware.
Yeah.
And I was proud to be on stage representing the great work that the teams have been doing and talking about Xbox One S and Project Scorpio and all the great games we had.
Yeah, so it's the announcements seemed pretty clear at the time. It sounds like after the fact there's been a little bit of information kind of swirling around about the capabilities of the different boxes.
We should talk about that and try to clarify some stuff.
So it seems like I guess it was Rod Ferguson confirmed to Polygon that the Xbox One S would actually be slightly more powerful than a base level Xbox One.
Yeah, let me talk about
that by design? Or?
Well, so what happens when, even on the original Xbox One that we shipped, over the life of it, we will upgrade different components in the box,
right? Because
it's like availability or the manufacturers of the drives or something that will give us a new model and we'll put it in.
A little cheaper to build or a
something
little bit better,
like that.
Easier to
bandwidth
source.
On things on any of the generations of our console can go up and down a little bit. I'll say Xbox One S was designed, let me put HDR kind of over here.
Yeah.
But Xbox One S was designed to run your Xbox One games the same way your original Xbox does.
Yeah.
I think what Rod was talking about specific to Gears, there's some things that happen that actually make his Gears run, the Gears build like right now, run a little better on Xbox One S than on Xbox One. We're not done with the game when it lands. Yeah. The thing I want to make clear to people is they shouldn't buy an Xbox One S thinking it's going to run Xbox One games faster.
Right.
Because we didn't design it to do that. It is an Xbox One S. There are marginal differences in all the hardware, but it's an Xbox One. And it's Xbox One, that's how it runs the games. Now we have HDR, so it will support high dynamic range for 1K games, if I want to call them Xbox One games.
Right.
And you'll get that in Gears, you'll get that in Scalebound, you'll get that in Forza Horizon. So it actually does run the games from that perspective a little better. If you don't have an HDR TV, you obviously won't see that.
Sure.
So, but I don't want anybody thinking the Xbox One S is some kind of performance improvement over the Xbox One, because it really wasn't designed to do that.
Okay, but Project Scorpio that's when we get into teraflops. That's when we get into going over the top and saying, let's put out the most powerful console on the block.
Yeah. We, as I've shared in different places, we've been doing more work on PC, and we recently shipped Forza Motorsport Apex.
Right.
6 Apex on PC running at 4K, and we've been looking at what it takes to run these games at 4K on PC, and we wanted to bring that capability to console. And as we were looking at the device capability you need, it was really 6 teraflops that we had to go hit in order to hit real high resolution, high fidelity VR or high fidelity 4K experiences. I'll get to VR in a second.
Yeah.
And so that we designed a spec around 6 teraflops. We looked at what we could get done this year, whether we could actually hit that spec with a hardware refresh this year. We couldn't. So instead of putting out something less than 6 teraflops this year, because 4K I think really is the next step between the HD that we have now and the next step.
Those TVs are not much more expensive
That's
than
exactly right.
any other 1080 TV.
Yeah,
you know?
so we designed around 6 teraflops. It was interesting, as we were doing that, we started talking to people like Todd Howard, who you saw in our video around the announce of Scorpio, around VR, and really what they needed to bring the console-like experience you get in a game like Fallout to VR. And 6 teraflops, we made some slight changes in terms of memory bandwidth and stuff to make sure that we were also a great platform for high-fidelity VR experiences that a console player would expect. So, and I want to clarify one thing, because this is something I said yesterday around if you don't have a 4K TV, what do you do with Scorpio? To me, this is really around our motivation. Our motivation with Project Scorpio was with 4K coming, as you said, you see the TVs out there. We designed this console for that. And if you've got a 1K TV, and if you already have an Xbox One, that's what I said, don't go buy an Xbox One S thinking your games are going to play better. It's not for, if you like the design or you want the 4K streaming, great. HDR, great. But I'm not trying to upgrade you there. Scorpio is more powerful than the original Xbox, 4.5 times. And the 6 teraflops actually will obviously impact the games and the way they play.
Upcoming games.
This
isn't necessarily like, you're not going to like suddenly get better performance out of any disc you put in the system.
It's a great question. If you look at a game like Halo 5 implements something called dynamic scaling. So as scenes get more complex, in order to maintain 60 frames per second, they will actually change the resolution that you're running at. And they're not the only game that does this.
Right.
So then if you run that game on Project Scorpio, you're actually going to be at the max frame rate of that game more often. So and now, again, I'm not going to put that as a top selling feature of Scorpio, because it's not all games use dynamic scaling. I'm trying to be transparent with people about where we are in the design of Project Scorpio and what it was designed for. It was designed in order to enable these high-fidelity 4K experiences. So some of the existing games will actually run a little better if they're using dynamic scaling. But I wouldn't buy Scorpio to run your existing library of Xbox One games.
Get a little bit more performance out of Halo 5 is probably not a
No,
great,
I wouldn't suggest somebody does that. And then I got the question, well, if you have a HD TV and you don't have a 4K TV, should you go buy Project Scorpio? And I guess some people will do that, and obviously Scorpio is going to be running the 6 teraflop version of a game.
Right.
And that version of a game, even when downsampled to HD, will look different than the game running at 1080p.
Right.
But I still think of the complete Scorpio experience as somebody that has a 4K TV with Scorpio plugged into it. To take Scorpio and then plug it into an HD TV, to me, feels like you're taking a 4K frame buffer and down-resing it to show it on your TV. And the box will have downsampling. Like, it will obviously show up on an HD TV. But the real design point for us, the motivation behind Scorpio, was 4K gaming, 6 teraflops. Some developers will take advantage of that 6 teraflops in different ways, but that was really the design point for Project Scorpio, and the reaction of the dev community and, frankly, the fans here at E3 has been fantastic.
That's actually something that I was curious about when you talk about 4K being the emphasis of that thing, but will there be any mandate coming out of Microsoft toward developers saying, like, you guys should really focus on 4K here, or is it carte blanche for them to pursue that extra
if they want to just have a 1K frame buffer and then up-res to 4K and take advantage of
use that
power in a different way.
In other ways,
We'll absolutely be open to that. I mean, we're going to talk more specifics about Project Scorpio, so we'll get into more of the details. But I think creative freedom and how you want to use the power of the box is something that I always support. I mean, I came from first party, as you guys know, so putting the right tools in the hands of the creators, the best creators, is our job as the platform. One thing, though, that we should make sure everybody understands, every game that comes out in the Xbox One family will run on the original Xbox One S, and Scorpio. So we have had some questions, are there going to be Scorpio exclusive games?
Right.
No, the line of games you're going to get to play is the same, regardless of which one of the Xbox One
And
console games.
It's not two SKUs. It's not two separate downloads. Is it? Is it kind of just the same package will just run on everything?
Yeah, and again, we'll go through more details on this stuff as we get further along. But yeah, this is not you're not buying a different game, right? In fact, if you think about what we announced on stage at E3 relative to Windows and Xbox with crossplay and cross-buy, Xbox Play Anywhere, we basically announced you buy the game one time, you're able to play it on your Windows 10 PC or your Xbox. And because I really think about building your library of Xbox games and be able to play them wherever you are. That's kind of a core tenet that we've had inside the organization. It's what drove us to do backward compatibility last year. You should be able to play your games on the devices that will play them. When you sit down, you log in, you get access to your library, download and play. And we'll think about Xbox One family exactly the same way.
Yeah. So I guess then you kind of have that next pillar or that next tier up, I guess, or alongside Scorpio, where it is literally the PC.
That's right.
And this is where the approach gets even, I guess, maybe complicated is not the word. I mean, you're offering a lot of options for people. As someone who's already built a pretty substantial PC, I get to a point where I'm like, okay, great. Like it's great to know that I can play those games at these resolutions on this monitor. Like really get the performance out of it.
Yeah, that's you're the kind of customer that when we looked at and we got a lot of feedback from our console customers. A lot of them also have good Windows gaming rigs, and you end up with this weird decision where, okay, let me think of of a recent game. I'll take Battlefield, right? Because Battlefield come out on PC, it does well on PC. Yeah. So you end up making this decision of, okay, where are all my friends going to play?
Right.
Are they going to play over here on console? So then I'll go buy whether it's a PlayStation version or an Xbox version, or am I going to buy the version from Steam because all my friends, or in this case Origin, because all my friends are going to play on the PC? And I just think it's this weird fork in the, hey, let me guess where my friends are going to go play.
Right.
Now, we're not dictating Xbox Play Anywhere for third-party games. I don't have the power to do that. But we want to lead with our first party and say, hey, when a game like Halo Wars comes out or when a game like Gears comes out, you're going to have to pick on whether your Windows friends are going to buy it or your console friends are going to buy it. You just buy the game and know that you can play. And if you're sitting in front of your monster PC rig and you want to run with unbound frame rate and kind of go, if you happen to be me sitting my butt in front of the couch with a controller in my hand, I want to play on the console, I'll do that. And really make it about you, your choice on where you want to play and the games that you want to play, and less about this kind of decision on, well, I bought it over here, so I can't play over there.
Right. So that led to, there was a little bit, some of the details around that with Gears of War 4 seemed that maybe some of that kind of cross-play was limited to certain modes. It sounded like that it was just kind of a listing off the cooperative modes.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, I mean, I get mouse and keyboard,
that's
very different thing.
Yeah.
So is that something where would a developer be able to, I guess, is the developer making those decisions themselves, or is that, okay.
Yeah, so you can only influence Mr. Rod Ferguson so much, but as somebody who plays a lot of games, somebody who's been involved in game creation for quite a while, I've said, in co-op modes, the fact that your rotation speed might be faster than mine, I mean, like, who really cares?
Yeah.
We're playing together. We're all working together. And I might even say my bias would be, even in kind of casual competitive modes, if we just want to play together, just let us play together.
Right.
But I mean, game schedules and the design ideas of the creators, those things to me are the most important. So I want to put the tools in place with Xbox Live so that if a creator says, fine, keyboard and mouse controller, you guys just go and play and you can Rocket League it as much as you guys want, or if they want to have real strict PvP competitive modes where it's either keyboard versus keyboard or controller versus controller, great, you guys go create those hoppers and go. I want to put the tools in the hands of the creators and they'll make the decisions.
And it seems like in that case, like even in a case like Gears 4, though maybe they're not going to make this decision, it could be the case where, like, if you're using a controller on the PC, you could get into those hoppers.
That's right. Yeah, and I think, as we work through this and we get feedback from customers on what they want to see, we're going to be responsive to that. We're at the beginning of a lot of things in trying to continue with our vision of your choice on where you want to play, who you want to play with. I like that we can even have the discussion as somebody who shipped Shadowrun, and we're kind of working through all of those balance issues.
This has been the plan all along, right? It's like just
we've
sitting
been
there on
working
the
on
Shadowrun.
what's it been, like 6 years
Get it
or
back
something?
around.
We're getting there. We're almost there.
Every game must have a healing tree that grows. That's my mandate. Go.
I love that healing tree. That was one of the better features. Honestly, Shadowrun should have been an RPG and should have not been a shooter. But the Shadowrun is an RPG IP. But we're gonna work. We're gonna learn. We learn by doing. We learned a lot, frankly, from the Rocket League team as we were just working on cross-network play. Right. And they came to us and said, hey, for these kind of games that do well on a lot of platforms but aren't selling 20 million units on each platform, having these segmented shards of players doesn't make it great for matchmaking. So they came and asked us about cross-network play, and I wasn't in the role when some decisions were made around not wanting this as a policy in Xbox Live, but I looked at it, and as a game creator, it made complete sense to me that we should be able to link the networks together.
Absolutely.
So, and the Valve guys, who we know really well, have been very supportive of that. It's great to see that, and I hope it continues.
Yeah. So when I think about a platform holder, when I think about Nintendo and Sony with the PlayStation and Microsoft with the Xbox, you tend to think about it in terms of installed base and selling boxes and putting out the big first-party games to move the units and
I think
build that
base. It was a good E3 for first-party games, actually.
I agree. Yeah. But now with the messaging being like, hey, you're going to be able to play a lot of these games on the PC. That just seems like such a fundamental shift. I mean, not only. I mean, a lot of things are changing, right? I mean, Sony's obviously working on what it's working on. Yeah. And we're.
They invited me over. I played the PSVR games today. I had a good time with them.
But they have their kind of upgraded hardware.
Oh yeah,
as long as well as
Neo.
Neo. It's just it just rolls right off the tongue.
I feel like this E3
Morpheus,
is like
Neo.
This E3 is like battle of the project code names. Like Scorpio versus Neo.
Scorpio sounds like dude with stubble, eye patch. Scorpio. Like it's just a great. It's a good code name. It's a great code name.
You got that right.
Everything else. No. But I guess it really feels like everything is kind of on the table again with regards to that. It's like we're not waiting for the full cycle to complete to roll out new hardware that is not compatible with the old hardware and all this other stuff. So what does your role then become in a world where maybe just selling boxes, physical Xboxes, isn't as important anymore?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, just listening to you go through the thought process, because it's the same thought process we've been going through. When we talk about the health of the Xbox business right now, we talk about this thing called monthly active users.
Right.
And I know I get a lot of snark back that I'm just trying to dodge an install base number versus install base number with PlayStation 4. I don't think anybody with a calculator can kind of figure out they've sold more consoles than we have.
Yeah.
But when I think about the health of our business, it's how many people are playing games, connecting, buying games, obviously from a business standpoint. And I'll get the Twitter comments of thanks for putting all your games on PC. Now I don't have to buy one of your Xbox Ones.
Yeah, and they think that's coming off as snide, but
like
I
they figured out
you're
a
like,
hole in my strategy.
You're like, no, yes,
Dang,
exactly,
I hadn't thought of and I'm kind of more of the sentiment, thanks for playing our games. And I think the experience of playing on a console, there's some uniqueness in that in terms of I hit a button, a nice little sound plays, it comes up, it boots into a UI that's meant to be controlled with a controller.
Right.
It's usually on my television 10 feet away from me or so, and that's a different experience, not better or worse than playing on a PC. It's just a different experience. And as Microsoft, obviously, we care a ton about Windows, and gaming on Windows is something that my team is very focused on now. So I looked at the health of both of these and said, if we get into this world where, as an Xbox business, we look at people playing on PC as somehow detrimental to our Xbox business, we'll never do a good job.
Sure.
I lived through that. It was called Games for Windows Live.
Right.
And the problem with Games for Windows Live is the Xbox team looked at those users, and it was always, how can we get them to buy an Xbox? And I don't want to be about that. So if I then put out, hey, how are we doing on a unit basis versus PlayStation 4? I'm actually reinforcing something that isn't how we're driving the business at a fundamental level. At a fundamental level, this is about building the best games we can, like Quantum Break, and Building the
It was
best
a fun
games.
TV show with some video game in the middle
Here
of it.
we go.
Right? Yeah.
We're going to throw down right here. We're going to throw down. No, building the best games we can. And I loved our lineup this year. We had 4 big games that are coming with obviously Forza and Gears and Dead Rising. And our indie lineup is very strong. Recore is coming as well. We got a great lineup next year. Continuing to build out our features on Xbox Live. I thought Mike did a nice job talking about clubs and arena and looking for group and features that we're adding as we continue to add data centers.
Getting people together that might not just curse at each other into
That's
a
right.
microphone, like-minded people. And
No,
that sort of
it's a
stuff.
little bit of a sideways, but I want to take a second on that one because I've said this before. I'm a father of 2 daughters, and I think about Friday night. My daughters like to play games. Do I really want to put them on Xbox Live? And as we thought about gaming for everybody, creating an environment where everybody feels that they have the gaming experience they want, clubs was something, and looking for group, kind of the intersection of these two things. I'm old dads that go to bed at 10. That's my club. So, if you want to play games till midnight, that's not the club I'm in.
Yeah.
But I wanted people to be able to create communities on Xbox Live. And it doesn't have to be restrictive communities. It could be people in LA that like to play Destiny, right? It could be it could be game-based things. But this idea that I can create a sphere on Xbox Live of people that I'm comfortable playing with, that I get to choose who I want to play with, and I can use that as my matchmaking group. To us as the platform holder, that was an important thing for us to go do, and I hope it takes off.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a problem worth solving. I'm a very foul-mouthed person. But
I haven't noticed that.
No,
So far.
it's early in the night. Okay. We give it a little bit. We'll see how it goes. But I have taken to a point where I'm just like, I just don't wear a microphone playing any game anymore.
Yeah.
I installed Overwatch on the PC and immediately looked for ways to disable all communications.
Yeah.
I just don't want to hear from people.
I know.
And it's sad.
It is.
You think about gaming as like this social thing, and now it's only if you're playing with friends in real life.
Yeah.
Can you have that voice chat, because
That is exactly what
them.
we're
And
trying to
it's-
solve, right? You're either people I really know or everyone. And we said, hey, can we create this cohort that somehow is selected that actually has a governance model, so you can have private clubs where you actually have to get in people as moderators can move you out of the club if you're breaking the rules, with persistent message boards and stuff, so you actually can know what's going on in the club. And I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect, but as it comes out, but we're going to learn, and I like that we're doing that. But anyway, the game's on top of the service with the hardware, and if that hardware where people are running those happens to be a great Windows PC, I absolutely want to embrace that.
Yeah.
And so it's important that we bring our first-party games to Windows then. And Xbox Play Anywhere felt like a good feature for the people who have a console and a PC. If you only have a PC and you never have a console, Play Anywhere will give you a bigger base of people to play with on most games. But it's obviously not the value of I can also play on a console. But getting back to the original point of, that's what's motivating us, is to get a lot of people together playing games, and it's not just can I outsell Sean and Andy's console, because they're doing a really good job with their business, and as a member of the game industry, I'm proud of the success that all of us are having right now. I mean,
it's been neat to see. I feel like at the start of this generation, the questions were like, do people want consoles?
You're absolutely right.
And to see oh wait, no, people totally want consoles.
I say that over and over. 5 years ago when I was here and I was running first party, it was isn't everybody just playing games on your phone?
Yeah.
What are these kind of weird devices that I plug into
Who
my
would even
television?
hook this up?
Yeah,
Exactly.
And now Sony's killing it with the PlayStation 4. We're selling a lot more Xbox Ones than we were 360s at this point in the generation, and Nintendo's getting ready to come out with an X, and I'm incredibly excited to see what they're going to do. So, it just feels like a really good, healthy time for the industry. Competition's good. It kind of keeps all of us driving, doing forward. Things like Neo, things like Scorpio.
Yeah.
I think this is all us trying to innovate and find ways of making that gaming experience better, and that just feels like it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it seems like, in addition to those options, for players, it seems like it gives you some pretty good options. Should we ever get to a point where people maybe decide maybe consoles aren't really the thing anymore, you're on the PC.
Yeah,
you're out there doing other things.
I'm very committed to the console space. I'll say, not that it's about my personal taste. I play most of my time on this dang Destiny game on Xbox, and I love the experience on the television and what it is, and I think it's going to be healthy for a long time. But you're right. Like, this lets the customer choose. If they want to take a PC and plug it into their television and have it act like a console. Like Origin does a really nice job making a lot of the PCs that are the kind of that form factor that I want in my family. But it's one of the reasons we added Bluetooth to our new controller, because we said, hey, and that's the one that sold with the Xbox One S is and the customization line that we've with Design Labs. These are all Bluetooth that can bind to your PC or using the Xbox wireless, so you can use the same control back and forth.
Do you foresee an updated Elite controller, putting Bluetooth in there?
We've had a lot of success with Elite, and
that's what I've got hooked up to my PC right now. It's a great controller.
I think absolutely. I think we're long on the Elite line of controllers. We don't have anything to talk about now. I'm really happy with the quality and the response that we've received from the one that's in market. But it's something, having a top controller, something that for the premium of the people who play a lot of games and want the absolute best, is something I think we should always have in our line.
Yeah. You're talking about VR.
Yeah.
Microsoft
in vague terms.
In vague terms, we had Palmer on last night.
Oh, how do you do?
Good. Great.
Yeah? He was on Ubi's stage?
Playing Eagle Flight.
Yeah.
Killing people, just going nuts.
Eagle Flight and killing people.
Yeah.
I missed it. I should have seen that.
And
I
just, you guys have obviously put the Xbox One controller in the box with the Rift. You've got a partnership there.
Yeah.
Microsoft not necessarily in the VR headset business. Do you think that, am I going to be able to plug my Rift into a Scorpio?
So as I said, when we were going through the design of Scorpio from a technical standpoint, obviously the advent of, I think PC is the best place for VR right now. I've said that over and over. I think PC offers the ability to, and you see it, plug a device into this high compute powered machine. I can get my own compiler. I can hand you a thumb drive with the game. Like, it's all of these things that really are such a great enabler for the innovation that we've always seen in the PC, games and non-games.
Especially in these early days.
Where
it literally is like, hey, I just coded this, try this out.
Right.
Tons of
Does this make you sick, yes or
no? That's because we're so early, right? It's so early in the VR space. And if I've said I think it's too early to try to verticalize in a closed ecosystem VR, and I know that seems like a shot. I'm just, like, as somebody who's been in this industry for a while, watch where we are with VR. I think VR has a strong history in front of it. It's not 3D TV. It's nothing that's going to go away. I think it has a real place. What the actual experiences will be that make VR something that, for everyone, I don't think we know yet. That's not a criticism. We just don't know yet. I don't think it's going to be a literal translation of games I play on a 2D screen into a 3D world. I think, just like TV early on was us filming a play, and it turns out TV is not filming a play. It's something different. And I think we'll learn the same thing about VR. And I love the PC space because the innovation is just so strong. We were in Taipei a couple weeks ago at Computex, and we must have seen 40 different head-mounted displays in development for hardware manufacturers.
Yeah.
And we introduced the notion of Windows holographic that we built for HoloLens is now in Windows, so any of those hardware manufacturers can just
tap
use
into that.
So they don't have to go write their own API. It's just built in. There's nothing that we do. Just go, because we love the innovation that we want to see in software and hardware, frankly. I think both. So when we designed Scorpio, I'm watching what's happening on Windows. We're talking to Oculus. We're talking to Valve all the time about what's going on in HTC, all these guys at Computex. We don't have anything to say right now about what's going to happen with VR on Scorpio, but it was designed to be a high-fidelity VR box. The 6 teraflops is from talking to people like Todd about Fallout VR and what he needed. It seemed like a good console-like spec. For that level of functionality, and we'll have more to say.
I feel like Fallout could use all the power it can get on
on any device.
On any device, right? Just throw as much hardware as you can.
Exactly. And for these, you talked about comfort level and stuff. We know that frame rate's important there.
Sure.
PC is just such a great spot for that. The fact that our Xbox One line actually at its core is running on Windows 10 definitely gives us some ability to watch what's going on in the PC space and at the right time lock on something that we think will be appropriate for console and Scorpio. And I think you'll hear more from us in the future about that.
Yeah. a lot of this stuff seems like a long time coming. Yeah, I guess, but it was only that spring showcase when they were out there kind of talking about UWP and some of the existing limitations of games running on that platform.
And we
back
have
then.
more work
It sounds
to do
like,
there.
Yeah, but it sounds like that's you are working to address that stuff.
We are. I think early with UWP there was some concern, and there's still some concern. I talk to my friend Mr. Sweeney all the time. There's still definitely concern that UWP and our store are somehow linked in a way that is nefarious. And it's not. We showed at Build the ability to basically double-click on an Apex on a desktop and have a UWP installed at a PC with no store interaction at all.
Yeah.
We want to enable UWP on console. We showed how that's coming with apps and the ability to turn your Xbox into a dev kit just with a couple clicks. But we're early, and the feedback is great. Even us launching things in our own Windows store, they all haven't gone swimmingly, right? Some of them have gone well. Yeah. Forza did well. Quantum wasn't our best PC release. KI did well on PC. I'd say Gears Ultimate Edition was okay. We definitely learned there. Things like VSync, the G-Sync, FreeSync work that we're trying to do, overlays, talking to the manufacturer, to the developers of overlays about how things need to work. Unbounded frame rate. These are all
things you never have to think about with a console.
No.
It's just like, we got this closed box, it's fine, we're good.
But we're in on this, and it's funny. Rod bought me this T-shirt that says we're building PC games again, and it's
that's when you've been around for a while.
That's right. Rod and I have worked together for quite a while, but I love it, right? And it does. The two ecosystems learn from one another. We've probably all been around when Egghead was there, and you'd go buy your PC games, and then when that whole retail segment went away, it was like, okay, the death of PC gaming, and these guys in Bellevue built this thing called Steam and kind of kept it going. And now, what's a AAA game that comes out that's not from a first party that doesn't ship on PC and do incredibly? Like, PC is incredibly healthy.
Yeah,
and I think making sure that console and PC for so many of these great franchises that we see the third party shipping, and for us on first party are shipping on both platforms, making sure that there's as much overlap for the developer as possible. Because the idea that I finish my console game and I throw it over to somebody else to port it to PC, especially since so many of these games are service-based, just really create... Now I've got these two code bases that don't really meet anywhere, and I'm supporting both of them. Patches are out of sync, and it's just... We want to go and tackle that problem and try to make development of both PC and console games a little better.
So Microsoft seems like it's really headed in this direction of it's like it's a services company. There are a lot of different things, and Xbox with kind of getting the brand onto the PC in a lot of different ways seems to tie into that a little bit. How married are you to owning those services? I mean, Steam is incredibly popular. Would you ever foresee, you look at the way Ubi does it with having kind of a Uplay launcher that launches out of Steam, which is clunky, but you understand, like they want to have some control over the experience and capture some data along the way. And
they run that on Xbox too, right?
Right, yeah. And EA obviously captures a lot of that stuff as well, and they're running their own platform. But I kind of every time I talk to EA, kind of ask those questions about like, so how's Origin going? How are you still married to it? What do you think about Steam? Because the thing we just hear from the audience over and over again is like, well, if it's not on Steam, it seems like Blizzard's the one company that gets a pass on that.
That's right. Well, Riot does a little bit.
Well,
too.
okay, yeah, you're right.
Riot gets a little pass.
MOBAs scare me, so try to keep Riot out of mind a little bit.
I saw Brendan; he was in their booth today.
How do you think you would ever look into putting games on Steam, or is it more about like, hey, let's put Steam in a deeper level into the Windows 10 store or something like that? Like, would you ever think about first, like figuring out a way?
We sell games in Steam today.
Right, I guess like Age of Empires.
Ori we launched in Steam.
Okay, right, yeah, you're right.
So
but with this kind of coming, big first party AAA, the stuff that's going to be coming out, do you think that still makes sense?
It definitely could. Yeah, I don't. I look at Steam today. It's on an incredible growth trajectory. It's a massive force in gaming, positive force
sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it'll be bigger a year from now than it is today, and 5 years later it'll still be bigger again, right? So, and I, as the platform holder, Windows, and my role, while we say it's head of Xbox, actually inside of Microsoft, they think of me as the head of gaming, which
Right.
and so I look at Valve as an important ISV for us on Windows. They are such a critical part of gaming success on Windows. I don't think Valve's hurt by not having our first-party games in their store right now, right? I think they're doing incredibly well.
Right.
And I think we're going to learn by doing of putting our games in our store. I want to build a store. There's no doubt about that. And Gabe and Scott and Eric and I, and we have talked about this, and I think Gabe says it very well. There's going to be areas where we cooperate, and there's going to be areas that we compete, and the end result is better for gamers. So I definitely want to have inside of Windows a healthy store. And in order to exercise the issues that we've talked about in terms of some of our early launches, I think I have to put my first-party stuff there. Like it's what first-party, we adopted Xbox Live before anybody else on console.
Right.
We're there at launch of consoles doing things that third parties won't go do. So I think we need that. Probably, but I get the same sentiment from that you hear of, hey, if you don't put it in Steam, it's not really a Windows game.
Yeah.
And I don't, Steam has earned that. Valve has earned that with the way they've treated customers, and they've been there, and I understand the Games for Windows Live 2.0 meme and how, hey, maybe we'll forget how to spell Windows again, and we'll just try to trick everybody into buying an Xbox. I get that perception of people. I will tell you, as long as I'm in this job, I think about Windows and our work on Xbox as core to what we're trying to do. And I want to learn from putting our games in our store and the process of doing that, because I want to have a healthy store ecosystem. But we will ship games in Steam again. And I think the partnership between us, I had the leadership of Valve over before the show, showed them Scorpio and said, hey, here's what we're doing. I mean, they're a great partner. I know those guys incredibly well. And I think they're doing fine without Quantum Break in their store right now. And I don't know what the future holds completely, but I have no aversion to saying there's definitely no religion to say we'd never ship anything in Steam again.
Cool.
But I do think we have to do some work on our own and learn from that.
So with Scorpio, gosh, how many years will it have been since the launch of the Xbox One when Scorpio finally hits? Is it four at that point?
Yeah, 4. I
So
believe 2013.
17, 4, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're better at math.
I mean, obviously it's kind of hard to see that far out at this point, but do you think that this is how consoles go from here? Kind of stick to this architecture? It seems like everyone likes the architecture that they're on right now. Maybe it'll get replaced by something down the line, but do you see this as kind of 4 years down the line, maybe?
Yeah. I like the timing that you talk about, because I definitely get some people asking me, the press coming in, and have we turned it into a cell phone, and every year, every 2 years, you're going to try to sell me a new console? And I'll definitely say that is not our plan. Our plan is to find the natural inflection points in game technology that seem to resonate with people. You mentioned 4K. You see it on PC as well, right? That seems to be a common spec that people will pick. But there are games that even go beyond that now on the PC. Television seem to lock on 4K. So we looked at that as a good point for us to design around with our 6 teraflops Scorpio. The next iteration, I don't know what that will be. We talk to creators all the time. Patrick Sutherland was also in our Scorpio video, like, hey, what are you guys thinking? Is it 8K? Is it 120 hertz? 144? Like, what is the next thing?
Yeah.
But we had no timeline for that. For us right now, the focus is on 4K and what we can do with Scorpio. In terms of the compatibility, as a member of the Xbox leadership team at the launch of the original Xbox, I've said this before, I really struggled with the lack of compatibility of 360 games, just at kind of a soulful level. I said, if we're going to really go push this digital future with Xbox One, I don't understand how a customer is going to effectively trust us if we say, yeah, Xbox Live Arcade, Summer of Arcade, all that stuff, all the digital games you bought on 360, sorry, but here, start again. Like that, it didn't. So one of the first decisions we made was obviously on 360 back compat, and could we get the Code Ninjas to make it work? And I'm really happy. We have actually some good, I think, announces tomorrow that are coming out on back compat.
Great,
which will be
great.
cool. I think it's tomorrow. But in terms of forward compatibility, that's the spirit of it. Now, I can't always predict future CPU, GPU architecture and how challenging that will be. We're going 360 is a Power PC chip. We're going to x86 on Xbox One. We made that work. There was really nothing that said that could work, but it did.
Yeah.
as long as we're staying in the same architecture, the compatibility is something that's core to me. And maybe it's my Win32 envy, right? The fact that
you can go all the way back to
these, right? And maybe sometimes because of DirectX or something else, something's a little bit quirky, but
you can make it work.
You got DOSBox for that.
That's right. There you go. Give me the command line. I'm good. But that's
command line on Xbox One. Is that
but that's. I think the sentiment in the Win32 world is when I buy a game, effectively it moves with me as I upgrade video cards and laptops or desktops and whatever I do. I like that. Now, I'll be explicit with people if we get to a point where something happens where that compatibility, we struggle, whether then you have to go to like a cloud solution or do you go to some kind of VM thing that runs. I don't know. But that right now, that's what we talk about as an Xbox One line.
Right.
Because in that line, I want to make sure that line that your games are with you, your live experiences with you, your save games are all there, your controller works, you move it back and forth across all of the Xbox Ones. That's kind of core to what we're trying to do.
So between Scorpio and Neo, obviously, like it is the way forward for there to now be two platforms that are kind of cross-compatible but different specs on the market at the same time. Have you guys encountered any skittishness on the part of developers about having to like manage two builds? Submit two builds, like, do a bunch of work on, like Jeff mentions, the closed box model of the console. Like, that's going away. Now they've got two targets they have to worry about. Like, are you able to support them and kind of ease those fears and kind of...
I love that. You're asking absolutely the right question. And some of the... I think there's a logical question of, hey, Phil, why would you ever announce two consoles at one show? Like Xbox One S, I think is... very nice, $299, beautiful console, and at the end you announce the next thing that's further out. Why didn't you wait? And clearly other people made a decision to wait. These discussions that we're having with partners now about the distribution of content, how you supporting multiple spec is something that the PC world's done for a long time. You got minimum spec, you got recommended spec, you kind of have unbounded spec. So you kind of pick, frankly, video card sweet spots where you look at the volume of the video cards that sold in CPUs and you say, oh, okay, this seems like one where there's millions of customers and there's clumped of millions of customers here. Now we're going to have two in the console. We'll obviously have Xbox One. That's why I talk about Xbox One S as an Xbox One, because they will design for that one kind of compute capability there, and then you'll have Scorpio. I think the real question is, hey, how do you deliver the 4K assets? If I buy this game and I'm running on an Xbox One, do I have to download all the 4K assets when I know I'm not going to run them here? And these are the discussions we have with the partners. And frankly, the reason we announced when we did, one, is I wanted to give customers a view into what we were doing. Because I want to, like, if they say, I have an Xbox One now, I'm thinking about an Xbox One S, I want to be as transparent as I can be so that they know they're buying with as much information as I can give them. I can't always give them all the information, but I want to give them this information.
That's cool. It seems like, there's too often in like the hardware business, you see like, oh, I bought this thing, and then 2 weeks later they announced like you hear in the PC world all the time, and
or the
Apple,
everything else with the Apple constantly.
And that's hard.
It is, and people could say, they could call me and say, hey, you didn't tell us about the Xbox One S before it came out, but I'll say the Xbox One S from a game standpoint is effectively an Xbox One, right? And so I want to talk about Scorpio so customers could feel like they had a view into what we were doing so they could make the decision was right for them. On your question, I also need to have that discussion with partners. And we started having the discussion with partners, frankly, months and months ago, and it leaked, right? We saw it leak like 2 weeks ago, and then we're in this world of, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. What, Scorpio? And I know when I'm going to go out and start talking to partners about these kind of scenarios and how do we want to tackle these scenarios, that things will get out. And I'd rather just do it openly and say, here's what we're building towards. It's a spec that's lined up with a good PC spec, so you can actually start targeting what Scorpio will be now with the builds of the games you're doing, because we're talking to partners that are shipping next year and already saying, hey, here's where it's going to be.
Keep this in mind.
Yeah,
so this
and
is your target.
That's why we're then I don't have to like make sure that I shred every piece of paper I see that has the words on it. It doesn't mean we won't try to like keep things our own, but having the dialogue both so the customers see what's going on, they can see the content. We probably won't talk a lot between now and when the next time we have something to say big about Scorpio, but you can, in what we'll be doing is these exact kind of issues of, hey, how do you target these two specs? How do I deliver the content? You asked about entitlements, like, is it a disc? How does that work? Like we have plans for all of those things. We're going to talk to partners about it, and now we can do it fairly openly, which feels good.
Cool. All right. Well, Phil, we're going to let you go. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thanks. I always enjoy, what you guys bring to E3. I think you've seen this industry for many years. No, but you're other than your review score on Quantum Break, I think you.
So you agree with the Gears of War Ultimate review score?
I don't know what it is. I don't want you. What was your Gears Ultimate score? It had to be higher than Quantum.
It was. I think it was right in line with Quantum.
No, it wasn't. Oh, on PC you said.
Yeah, okay. and I really like Gears of War.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to go back to Gears of War 1 when Gears of War 3 did so much more.
Have you played 4 yet on the 4?
Yes, I am very excited for 4.
Good,
like I've kind of fallen away from the competitive multiplayer side of Gears because I just don't like to roll around and do shotgun stuff. But horde mode, all the co-op stuff. I am really looking forward to that game.
No, but thanks for inviting me on. I love coming on every year. Like I said, I think your guys' perspective on where the industry's going, the fact that you focus on PC and console, you play your games, and I think you guys do a really good job. So thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Yeah.